Sue Tilley, welcome to the Lives of the Artists. Thank you so much for doing this.
I'm thrilled to do it.
Now, you have the most incredible story to tell. You were basically in Lucian Freud's studio at the height of his powers. He was sort of in his 60s, painting the best...
Early 70s, I think, maybe.
Early 70s, painting the sort of best paintings he was doing in his career, and you ended up in his studio. How on earth did that happen?
Well, he also painted someone called Leigh Bowery, who you may have heard of. And then Leigh Bowery's my best friend, and Leigh liked to get my life interesting. He thought it was a bit weird I worked at the job centre, as everyone does, and did. And so he sort of had to put the idea into Lucian's head to paint me.
Right.
And so he did. Kept mentioning me and how I'd be lovely to paint, because you have to make Lucian think it's his idea.
So wait, let's go back slightly more then. So initially, how were you friends with Leigh Bowery? Because he came over from Australia.
He did.
So how did you meet Leigh Bowery?
I remember about a year and a half after he arrived, I think, at a nightclub, Char's Behind Heaven.
Right.
And my friend introduced me to him. I thought, oh, he's a nice fella. He had a lovely, nice, open, jolly face. He wasn't Leigh Bowery then.
Right.
He was just a guy on the scene, do you know what I mean?
Okay.
And so he just dressed the same as everyone else. But he was very, people lively and got a lot of character about them, charisma, and they're always doing things. So we just sort of, and I think I'm very brought up the same as him, so I think I was more kind of like a sister, and he didn't have to put an act with me to make out.
Sort of brought up quite conservative.
Oh yeah, nice,
right.
Not conservative,
no.
but nice religious parents
right.
who brought us up. And as he said to me just before he died, he goes, I'm glad my mum taught me the difference between right and wrong, because at least then, when I'm being bad, I know I'm being bad.
Yeah.
And so our parents met and they got on very, very well. You know, it was very similar. So I think that's how... And also he couldn't boss me about, which was probably unusual for him.
And do you know how Leigh got the gig with Lucian Freud? How did that come about?
Well, Lucian's got a lot of children, as
right.
you may have heard.
Yeah.
And one of them was at university with another friend of ours called Angus Cook. And so she introduced Angus to Lucian.
Right.
And then Lucian started painting Angus and his partner, Kerry Wynne Evans, who's quite a famous artist now. Mm-hmm. And then Angus talked about Leigh, so Lucian wanted to paint Leigh. It's all like, if you go to one of Lucian's exhibitions, I think it's a bit like Tracy Emin's Tents. Not everyone I've ever slept with, it's everyone I've ever known.
Right.
And they're all kind of interrelated and know each other in some way or the other.
But all very organic.
Oh yeah, not like on purpose done or anything, just... That's the way it worked out.
And so what was the first meeting like with you and Lucian? Can you remember that moment?
Yeah, well, it was arranged. I had to go to lunch at the River Cafe, which is quite fancy, with Lucian and a couple of his daughters, I think, and then Angus and Kerith and Leigh. Oh, and Leigh gave me such a lecture beforehand, what to do, what to wear, what to say.
Oh, because it was Leigh quite sort of...
Bossy. Yeah, liked to be in charge of everything.
Was he concerned about what Lucian would think?
Yes, liked to be in charge of everything.
Right.
But as usual, I paid no attention whatsoever and just did what I wanted and did what I wanted.
Yeah, good for you.
And obviously I've passed the test, but it's weird because I don't know if you know that Lucian's got really, really starey eyes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And he used to make them bigger because he believed that if he made them like really try to pop them out, he'd see more.
Right.
And so he was staring at me across the table like that to
Really?
check me out.
So you were sitting opposite him and he was literally
staring, yeah.
He was probably analysing you.
Yeah.
Do I want to paint this person?
I know. Will she be all right?
And
I passed the test.
What were you... So you were working...
In the job centre.
In this job centre.
And the nightclubs.
And the nightclubs with Leigh.
Well, yeah.
And then he did he sort of say, would you like to model with me? How does it come about?
Well, he told Leigh to tell me. So Leigh had to ring me up, thrilled, say, you're in. And then the day before, he came round my house and made me practice stripping off. And then the day we started, he came to call for me, so I drove us there. And then it just went on from there.
And was that the first time you had ever modelled before?
Well, I'd modelled for A-level class at school.
Right.
Yeah, but I wasn't really a model or anything.
Were you sort of aware of the gravity of who this was painting you, or did you know much about, that this was...
No, when Leigh first told me he was working for Lucian Freud, I'd never heard of him.
Yeah.
So I sort of had to look him up. But then, when you sometimes you hear a name, you just see it all the time and you realise who they are. Yeah. And then Leigh gave me a book of his paintings, which I love looking at. Yeah. And gradually over the years, I've met most of the people in it. And so that was it. That's all I knew. So I didn't think... People think that I was going there going, yes, we're going to paint the most famous, expensive painting in the world. I just thought it was like going to work, really.
Yeah. And so the first time you went to a studio, it was the studio in Holland Park.
Yeah.
And you walk in.
Yeah, up the stairs.
What's the atmosphere like? Is it relaxing? Is it tense? Does he have music on? Does he say, sit down, have a cup of tea? Are you introduced at the door?
Yeah, he tries to make...
How does it work?
Well, there was a buzzer. So he pushed the buzzer and he'd push it to the door to open. Then you walk up about... it wasn't grand, really, about 4 or 5 flights of stairs.
And was he living...
on the top floor.
So was he sleeping on the top floor?
Yeah.
So
the rest of the house was all other people.
Oh,
he didn't even own it. It was rented from some la-di-da lady.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so there's other people living
his
there.
studio was literally next door to where his bedroom was.
Well, yeah, it was all the same space, yeah.
Right.
Sometimes he'd sleep in the studio.
Right.
Because there was always a bed in there for someone to be painted on. Sometimes when he was painting me, he'd lie on the bed for a sleep. Yeah, it was hilarious. And then his bedroom, there's like sort of a statue on the floor. I went, oh, that's nice. He goes, oh, it's a Rodin. Just lying on the floor. And a big painting by Mike Andrews in there. And
Did he have other art all around?
yeah, but everything was sort of bunged up.
Right.
Well, you couldn't say someone had gone round and curated it. I think it's just what he'd acquired.
And it was just sort of nail in the wall and on the... But I mean, there were Francis Bacon.
Yeah, but nothing like, normal people would have, light above it and all this. None of that. It was just there. And then the kitchen was just... Because he was an avid newspaper reader, so there was a huge pile of newspapers in the corner. And then the rags, his paint rags, they were from a hairdressing supply shop.
Right.
I don't quite know why, but anyway.
There was just a specific linen, weren't there, that he liked.
And then he used those to, wipe his brushes and then just threw them in the pile in the corner.
And so you walk in.
Yeah.
And do you remember what the first thing he said to you?
Well, no, he just goes, oh, hello, like that in his funny voice.
Yeah.
And it was all, because I wasn't really, I think I'm a bit daft. I just walk into things without really thinking about them. And I've got to a stage now in life, I do such peculiar things. I just thought, I'll be all right, I can do that. But to be honest, and then the second day, that's when I thought, what am I going to do? As I walked up the stairs, there was an overpowering smell of garlic.
Right.
And then, because he cooked your tea for you, you see.
Was he a good cook?
Yeah, but weird.
What sort of stuff?
He never had carbohydrates.
Right.
So he lived on the hay diet.
Quite healthy then?
Oh, yeah, very healthy. Yeah. Lots of protein. And he cooked little birds, a lot of meat, because I don't like that. Like little...
I
tiny weeny birds.
Yeah, sort of sparrows and things.
Oh, I don't know if that's bad, but spatchcocks or something. But because I don't like them, I paid no attention.
You like pheasant and things?
Yeah, and everything he bought was the most expensive. Like he had the bill from the fish shop, and I looked at the bill once, about £150, just for a few bits of fish.
Wow.
But it was beautiful. So everything was Elizabeth David was his heroine.
Right.
So everything was cooked nice, except this day when I arrived, the second day. And this pervading smell of garlic. Then he opened the oven. It was me, Nicola and Leigh there. And he had these cloves of garlic, like bigger than apples.
Right.
He'd roasted in the oven.
I didn't even know you could get cloves of garlic that big.
I know, I'm going, I can't eat this. And I was poking it round my plate. What am I going to do? I'll be sick if I...
It's a bizarre thing to offer your guests.
I know, but he's a bizarre man.
Yeah.
And then luckily, Leigh went, oh, I'm really sorry, I can't eat it. So I was all right, because it was only my second day, so I didn't want to cause too much fuss. So luckily...
So had painting gone on the first day?
The first day, yeah.
And then the second day you walk in and there's sort of garlic smelling and you must have thought, what bizarre, this is bizarre.
I know.
The world of Freud.
I know, it was a bizarre world. And the position was really uncomfortable. I was lying on the floor. Really...
I'm just checking the...
Oh, sorry, the microphone.
Microphone.
Yeah, it was really hard lying on the floor. And after the second day, I thought, I don't think I can do this. It's agony. I can't. Then I had a word with myself. Go, yeah, you can. You can do it.
So initially he put you on the floor.
Yeah, so I did.
So what was that for the
horrible painting, Evening in the Studio.
Evening in the Studio.
Hideous.
So I think, and many people think that those are some of the most iconic paintings that Freud ever painted and have ever been painted. And so these first sessions. Obviously, you wouldn't have known that these are going to come.
Never.
The most expensive paintings ever sold, and figurative paintings ever sold. So there must have been. I mean, what was going on? Do you think at the time? Do you think it was sort of you'd come into the presence of this force of nature, but he was really coming into his own. He was painting some of the best.
I didn't know much about it.
No.
And I tend not to think about it. I just
got on with
float along in life and things happen to me.
Yeah.
And people go, well, how did they happen? I go, I don't know. I think I was just go open and go, all right then, I'll do that.
And how many paintings of him? How many paintings did he do of you?
Well, 4, but 5 because I'd forgotten he did another one, and then it was in an exhibition at the Royal Academy, and it's not finished.
So he did an unfinished one, and which one was that?
I don't know what it's called even. I've just lying on my front, I think. Can't even really remember
was that
it.
The first one?
No, that was like the second or third one.
Right.
But I can't even really remember it being done, which is weird.
Yeah.
But I think as I'm getting older, my memory's going. So there's that one, but I think David Dawson knows it, I'm not really sure. And then, so there was 4 altogether.
Right. And so when was, the most iconic is Benefit Supervisor, and obviously that it broke records at auction and things like that.
I know.
When was that painted? Was that the last?
About 1995, I think, 1994.
Was that the second one?
Second one, yeah.
Second
and there's one very similar where I'm sitting up.
Right. And
so sleeping and resting. I couldn't remember. See how useless. I have to look it up, so I can't remember which one came first.
And so what was the conversation when he was sort of talking about Benefit Supervisor? Was he literally just directing you to then lie on the sofa? Yeah. Did he pull a sofa in? Did he buy the sofa?
He bought the sofa. I'd been away for about a year because he knew he had to finish the first paper quick, painting, by a certain date, because I was going on holiday to India. Right. And he hates suntan skin.
I heard.
So he had to finish it before I went away. And then I came back after 2 weeks, and I wasn't really, because I go around very easily. And he wasn't happy, because he always got Frank Albach to come round to see if it was properly finished or not.
So he would seek Frank's advice very closely about painting.
He's a lovely man.
Is he nice?
A lovely man, yeah. And then...
he was a bit reclusive.
Yeah, but he lived around the corner to me, funnily enough, in Moulton
really?
Crescent. His studio was there.
But he was a very friendly person?
Yeah, lovely. I used to bump into him. He was often to be seen in the local, what they called, amusement arcade.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in bottom of Camden High Street.
What was he doing?
Playing on the machines. Don't ask me. It's really horrible. Not like seaside amusement arcades. The ones in London.
Gritty.
Yeah, and they're sort of dark. And you go, what would anyone want to go in there for? Yeah. In there. And then I saw him at the cinema, the Odeon in Parkway, watching some rom-com.
Really?
Yeah. He was a lovely man. And I knew his son as well, because he was a filmmaker.
Jake?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jake's a very nice... he comes across very nicely in interviews.
Very nice fella.
So Frank was around quite a lot.
Yeah.
And he was sort of giving advice and crits on where to go, the direction of the paintings and things.
So I had to go in with my tan, because he wanted to move the arm like half an inch. Right. But he couldn't do it without me there. So he felt sick looking at my son.
Oh, really?
And then I was off for a year.
It was a real problem, was it?
Oh, yeah. But even my tattoo, he didn't like it. So I said, well, if you don't like it, cover it up. I said, what's my idea? I go, when you mix my flesh paint, just put it on that. He goes, what a good idea.
Oh, really?
So every time I went home, I had to wash the oil paint off my arm.
Oh, wow.
I know.
So he's probably mixing the right tone for your flesh colour.
I know. And what else was it like?
So Benefit Supervisor, he had bought this sofa, he pulled it in.
It was so tatty, it completely fallen to bits.
Yeah.
And it cost a fortune, several £1,000s, I think.
Really?
But then he used it for other people as well, so other people got use of it. So his painting of Leigh was done on it.
Yeah. And how many paintings of Leigh had been going on when you first came into the studio?
I can't remember.
No.
3 or 4 probably.
Yeah.
But it was nice
because David Dawson said that he walked into the studio when he was first introduced to Lucian Freud, that he walked in to possibly become one of his studio assistant.
Yeah.
And there was these huge paintings of Leigh Bowery and would have been yourself, or was that before?
I think he'd started. I think he was always working there when I started there, right. I think. Yeah.
Right. And what was his role in the studio?
Oh, we were very busy. He had to go and buy wool. He had to carry boxes of Evian up the stairs. Right. Boxes of, what's that drug they used to love? Not drug, medicine.
Like codeine?
Codeine. No, not codeine. Solpadeine.
Solpadeine.
The one is fizzy. Oh my goodness, he had boxes of that all, because it's in a big box, all over the house.
Well, Lucian was taking Solpadeine.
Yeah, loved it.
Why?
I don't know, he just liked it. And sometimes I was
bad
a bit
back from standing up painting.
I was a bit fidgety. He'd go, Sue, have a Solpadeine here. And he'd stir it up with a dirty old paintbrush handle. Or if I was really tired, Sue, have a Solpadeine. He thought he cured everything.
Wow.
And he should have been in an advert for it.
Yeah.
So he'd buy that. And he used to do all the errands, like buying the food and going to the shops.
He was like a sort of personal assistant.
Personal assistant.
Did he rely on David a lot?
Oh, yeah. And then, you know, taking stuff, I don't really understand all the back stuff, you know, arranging stuff with the framers and the printers and the etchings and all that. I think he sort
Right,
all
so
that
doing
out.
the admin and the logistics and things.
Yeah, one of my favourite stories ever was one New Year's Eve. Somehow or other, I don't know how, Lucian had been in his other house and had got locked in, and he could then get out the back and ended up climbing over a fence and got trapped in a stranger's house that was empty. I never could quite get to the bottom of the story.
Sounds like an odd story.
And then he didn't want to phone the police because he thought it'd get in the papers that he was locked in someone's house. And so he had to phone poor David Dawson in the middle of New Year's Eve, who had to come with a ladder and rescue him, or some such bizarre story.
In the garden?
Yeah, I couldn't really get to the bottom. No, he went in the house
God.
and picked up their phone. I don't, you know, it's a story never really made sense, but I quite like the thought idea of it. David Dawson might know it more.
Bizarre. Are you still in contact with David?
Oh yeah, but I see him. I saw him last week, a couple of weeks ago. I mean, I wouldn't ring him up for a chat.
No.
Well, once in a blue moon maybe.
Yeah.
But I was friendly when I see
You
him.
went through some incredible
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
So how long were you working in sort of Lucian's orbit for?
Well, 4 years on and off, because I had the 1 year off in the middle.
Right.
So each painting was 9 months really, so 4 times 9 months.
So benefits supervisor was 9 months of what sort of routine was the work day?
So I'd get there it depends on time of year, because in winter you'd get there a bit later because it wasn't light enough. So I'd get there about 7:30, go upstairs, have a chit chat. He'd be reading the papers, have a little chit chat. Then I'd just go and lie down. And then the first session probably would be about an hour and a half, because...
What time would that start? Sort of 8:30 in the morning?
Yeah.
Right, 8, yeah.
And then finally, probably about 9:30, he might say, have a break, or the phone would go.
Right.
That was thrilling when the phone went. But the thing is, not many people had his phone number, so it didn't go very often. So, and then...
Break for lunch?
But in the morning you have breaks every now and then, you know, some about half an hour or an hour. And then, because he had so many newspapers and it was the weekend, there was a plethora of Sunday supplements for me to read.
Okay.
So I sat and read them.
But why did he have so many newspapers? Was it because of the horse racing?
Yeah, I don't really know. Obsessed.
He was obsessed
He got
with
so
horse
many.
racing.
Oh yeah, and once, because there was this little room, like a box room I'd call it, with old furniture in it and bits and bobs, and this really old television. Didn't have a remote control, you had to push the buttons.
Yeah.
And it was called the Television Lounge, as named by Francis Bacon.
Okay.
I quite like that idea. And so somebody would just go in there and lock himself, watching the racing.
What if the horse racing came on?
Yeah.
Middle of the day?
Yeah.
Didn't matter what time, you just went in?
And then once he was in there about 2 hours and I was just sitting waiting, and he came out and he said, "You can go home now." I went, "What do you mean? You could have told me to go 2 hours." I went mad. I didn't usually, but I just thought, what a blooming cheek.
Yeah.
I could have gone home ages ago.
Yeah.
Then the next day he gave me £500, so it was worth it.
Wow, you must have won something at the horses.
I know.
So, so benefits supervisor, did you think at the time when you was painting it that this was work was quite epic? Were people talking? Were people coming through the studio talking about this work?
No, because no one ever came round really.
No.
Oh, Frank and a couple of the other sitters, and it was nice because all around the studio I could see all the other paintings that were going on.
Yeah. And how many paintings would he have on the go at any time?
5, 6, 7.
Right.
And usually a self-portrait, because what he wanted most of my sisters was reliability.
Yeah.
And in case one didn't turn up, which was rare because she was too frightened not to turn up, and you always pick people, if you were unreliable, you got the boot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it was important that you were there on time.
Yeah,
because
because he needed to work.
Yeah.
And so, but he always had a self-portrait on the go, just in case someone didn't turn up.
Right.
Because he'd be there and he could paint himself.
Can you remember which one he had on the go?
He had the one with the boot. He's naked with the boots and the paintbrushes.
He did that for about 14 years.
Yeah. Because he always wore those Timberlands without the laces.
Covered in paint.
Yeah. And so that was interesting to see that.
And so benefits supervisor took about 9 months, and then after that, did he paint the sleeping next to the lion's carpet?
That was the last one.
That was the final one. So what was the one in between?
There was another one. There was 2 benefits supervisors.
Oh, yeah.
One lying down and one sitting up.
Sitting up where you're sleeping.
Yeah. So there was
so
those
you just naturally sort of go into those positions. They weren't sort of forced.
No, because you'd get the sofa and make yourself comfortable. Then you'd come and have a little fiddle around with you and that. And then that was it. And then it was like, you just got used to it. And when you sat down, that's just how you sat.
Some of the positions that Leigh was in, they were absolutely extraordinary.
That one where he was standing on the box.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked simple, but the balance you must have to have. And
For
he
9 months.
and he was ill as well. You know, it's when he started getting ill. And then when Nicola had to climb up and sit in the little hole in the wall.
Well, that's an amazing
I
painting
love that
as
picture.
well, yeah.
But it's really sad as well, because that's when Leigh was dying.
Oh, no.
So there's lots of you know, if you can look at all the pictures together,
It's
there's
an
lots of stories that
incredible
all link
period of
up.
your life.
I know, they all link up and it's all a bit weird. But
And so had Leigh's project was that going on when you started, or was that going on?
No, it was
at the
still
same
going
time?
on, yeah.
So you and Leigh were both in the studio?
Well, no, not for long, because the first picture, the one I don't like, even in the studio, and the dog is on the bed. Originally, Leigh was on the bed.
Right.
But then he got a job and he had to do a play in Scotland.
Leigh did?
Yeah, and Lucian wanted him to be there the whole time, so he got kicked out and the dog took his place.
Oh, really?
Because the dog lived there.
And would you and Leigh? So I read in his in Lucian Freud's biography by William Fever, it sort of talks about you and Leigh maybe being a bit cheeky.
In what way?
As in, sort of, Leigh would sort of crack jokes about Lucian when he was out of the room and things like that.
But the thing is, he used to ring, you know, to speak every day on the phone anyway, practically. So he was always telling me stories. Half of them were made up. I haven't read that William Fever book.
No.
Does it say I'm pushy in it? 'Cause a couple of people have said it says I'm pushy.
No, it doesn't sound like
Doesn't
that.
it? Oh, because I think I'm the least pushy person I know. But anyway.
It doesn't sound like that at all. It just mentions that there was Leigh had a funny relationship with Lucian, and that it was sort of like he sort of made fun of Lucian, like he's a sort of old curmudgeon.
Oh yeah.
You know, and sort of Lucian, he's like he's a bit odd kind of thing.
Oh
you know?
yeah.
But they were quite close, and Lucian
they were very
good to him until the end.
They
wasn't
were. They loved each other, really, and they both admired each other, you know. And then the sofa, though, was so tatty. It was like they had strings of thread on it, and sometimes Leigh put a note in there or a little pound in between.
What was that?
The strings on the sofa, just for entertainment value.
Just in case another model found
Yeah.
the note. And Lucian ended up paying for his funeral, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, he didn't really have a funeral. Paid for him to be flown back to Australia, though.
So was Lucian quite a generous human being?
Yeah, depending what mood he was. Sometimes he'd be amazingly generous, and I'd think, that was very mean.
Yeah.
Like, I remember once, he always had tons of change for the parking meters outside. And I was leaving once, and there was still half an hour left on the parking meter. And he phones up his girlfriend and went, "Get here quick. Sue, she leave the space. There's money on the meter already."
God,
50 pence.
God, that's hilarious.
Yeah, when you
'Cause he was
spend
never short of money.
No, when you spend 150 quid on fish for one day.
Yeah, exactly.
And some at lunchtime, see, sometimes he'd either make the food and it'd always be really delicious fish or something, or he'd take me out. That was always my favourite.
Where did he sort of place
River
his...
Cafe.
River Cafe was one of his favourites.
Yeah.
What about Sally Clark's? Did you ever go
No,
there?
weirdly, he never took me there, which was weird.
Well, I think it was his breakfast place.
Yeah, but he used to bring cakes from there.
Right.
Because David had to go there and buy a cake for pudding.
And that was on Kensington, Church Street.
Yeah, and I think his house he bought in the end was opposite there.
Yeah, I think that's where he died, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I've only been there afterwards
Right.
to Sally Clark's. Is it still there?
It is still there. Yeah, it's still there. But so you just walk over there for breakfast, and then for lunch you'd get sort of drive down. He didn't have a car driving license, did he, Lucian?
Well, he had a golden Bentley.
He had a gold Bentley without a license, and he'd drive around.
He could not. I can tell you, it's hilarious. The driving, it was so appalling.
Was it?
It was petrifying, but it was quite exciting at the same time. So there'd be this little tiny wizened man behind the steering wheel. And then we'd be, once, I've told these stories before, but they're weird. We were driving, I think it was through Earl's Court or somewhere on the way back from lunch, and a taxi had the nerve to overtake him. You know, you're allowed to overtake.
Yeah.
He was furious. And so it was like really wide pavements, it was like a boulevard. And so he drove up on the pavement and overtake the man on the inside.
Wow.
And I was just sitting there like this, cringing.
Jeez.
Then another time, I think we're on our way to the River Cafe, Bentley. You know, like roads where there's, like here perhaps, there's cars on either side, so really only one car can go down and you have to dodge in this. So he's driving along in the golden Bentley, and then the car comes towards him, and there was a space at the side that he could have gone into, but he refused. And he just stood on, what's it called, a standoff with this man, and they started going like this.
Oh.
Like, imagine the man like saying you're shit, I'm putting you down the
Oh
toilet.
my God.
I couldn't keep a straight face. And the poor man had to reverse back, shaking.
It sounds like he's a different person when he's behind the wheel of a car.
It was hilarious.
He was quite sort of focused and calm when he was painting, and then he would turn into this crazy...
Well, he wasn't even calm really when he was painting. He used to get in a terrible state.
Did he? What sort of thing?
Well, say he was painting and it wasn't going right, he'd get the paintbrush and he'd stab it in his leg like that and just go, fuck, 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 while stabbing himself.
Wow.
Yeah, so he wasn't that calm.
I think that's... So, I can see how it sort of... his evolution of painting, and you can see the struggle through his whole career.
Oh yeah.
You know, but that's almost the tension in the paintings. They're really interesting paintings because of this sort of him developing and really trying to sculpt almost. He sort of almost sculpts.
Because some of the last ones he did just before he died, the paint's really thick and blobby like that.
Almost like he'd scratched.
Yeah, and he's like, I think as
floor.
well, he couldn't really see that well by then.
Yeah.
And so he's like peering and this blobbiness. You could, if you touch them, they'd be like pebble dash walls, wouldn't they? They're so thick, the paint.
Yeah. And is it true that Leigh maybe might have taken a couple of paintings?
Yeah. I had to drive. It was a saga. Yeah, he stole them.
Which ones?
They're only little. They weren't finished. You know, just sketches.
Were they sketches of him?
No, other people. I think I can't really remember, but I've seen them, and he was so thrilled. Then he took them round to Angus and Kerris and told them, and then started kicking them around the floor, being punk, being really cool, thinking here he is kicking around Lucian's paintings.
What happened to the paintings?
Well, then Nicola, when Leigh died, Leigh's dad and Leigh's sister were over visiting. It was all a hoo-ha. And then Nicola gave them to Leigh's sister as a present. And then sister was before she went back to Australia, sister and her partner were going around Europe. So she left these paintings in the left luggage office at Heathrow Airport. But then Nicola felt a bit guilty, so she told Lucian what she'd done. And he was furious, not with her, not that he didn't want them to have them, but he didn't want paintings that he'd done that he wasn't pleased with to be out in public world.
Yeah, unfinished.
I know. And so, Nicola's dad, Leigh's dad didn't really trust, for some unknown reason, Nicola's sister, I don't know why. And so I was sent with her to go, Lucian asked me to go to Heathrow.
Nicola was Leigh's wife.
Yeah. So me and Nicola's sister had to drive to Heathrow to try and find Bronwyn before she got her connecting flights, which we managed to do. So we had to bring the paintings back.
Oh, so you actually retrieved them and gave
So I
them
was
back.
thrilled. I was driving down the M4 going, it's International Art Rescue.
And what happened to the paintings?
Well, I don't know.
They were delivered back to Lucian. And that was the last
so I
we heard
don't
of them.
know what's happened to them now. David Dawson's probably got them. I don't know.
Has he kept a lot of work, David?
I don't know. I don't really.
He's quite loyal to.
Yeah.
I mean, he was left the studio, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And in Holland Park. Was that the only studio that Lucian had?
Yeah, no, it wasn't the one in Holland Park. The one in Kensington
Church Street.
Yeah.
Was the one that was left.
Yeah. Because he didn't own the other one, so he couldn't have left
I
it.
see. And so, and he's just sort of locked it up. He hasn't done.
Well, he lives there.
Oh, he lives there.
Yeah.
But he's locked up the studio. I mean,
I'm not really sure.
He's left it.
Never been round there, so I don't know.
Yeah. So he's probably kept a lot of the work just
Yeah.
on the wall and things like that.
I don't really know.
So that portrait, that self-portrait of Lucian, was just there constantly. The naked self-portrait that was sort of took, I think, 60 years to paint. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was all these other pictures going on.
And was the studio busy? People coming through, his family, his
Not
daughters,
really.
his
Every now
children?
and then. But I liked it because then I could meet them and see. Because as I said, it was this book I looked at first. I've had to put a sort of person to all the people in the pictures, which was quite nice. And then, so I went to a David Dawson exhibition once, and I could see someone doing that to me.
All the photographs of the studio and things.
No, so David Dawson's paintings, an exhibition.
Yeah.
So I went, and then there's one of the. Is it Francis? Someone or other? He was painted in a pink shirt. I could see him just trying to stare at me to see what I looked like in real life. But that's what I was thrilled to meet all these other people and see what they look like in real life.
And so Leigh's obviously he got sick while you were while he was working for Lucian.
Yeah.
But how many years was he was in London? He was an absolute icon of the gay club scene in London in the 80s. And was that sort of dying out when he was modelling Was he sort of over that, or was that still a scene?
No, he was still going out all the time. I didn't go out so much, I couldn't be bothered. And I didn't like really going out then when he was dressed up, because when I go out, so I just like to chat, and it was quite hard to chat to him because he couldn't really hear what you were saying. But no, he was still going out and doing clubs, then going abroad and doing performances in clubs abroad and everything.
Boy George called him modern art on legs.
He did, yes.
Which I thought was a great way of describing him. And I've never seen anything like it since.
I know. Oh, I see people pretending, but it's not quite the same. No one else. Other people try and be him.
I think Alexander McQueen was very inspired by him and for some of the iconic
fashions
things that he did. Yeah.
But they haven't got the... Actually, I think Alexander McQueen's got quite a good personality. You know, he was quite charismatic. But you have to be It was just... There was so much going on in his head, and he was thinking about so much, and everything had a purpose.
But it was all a sort of performance for himself. It wasn't. He didn't want to turn it into a fashion label. He wasn't interested in being part of a group.
No,
he was just this sort
himself on his own.
Yeah.
He didn't want to fashion. It was too much. You know, it was too much trouble, too much work, doing the same old things over and over again.
And did you work at the clubs that?
I worked at Taboo.
And what was that like? Was that good fun?
Well, you know, like people talk about it like it was the most amazing place on earth. I mean, it was good fun, but it wasn't anything. It was just a grotty club where everyone got drunk and fell on the floor.
It's been mythologised.
Yeah, and it's because I think it was nice for me and my friends because it was all our friends there.
Yeah.
But I think if it was just a stranger turning up, I don't know what you'd make of it really. But it was just like Thursday night, all your mates, you saw them all and you knew they'd be there.
Would people go to see what Leigh was
wearing?
wearing?
Yeah, that was their keen to see what he was wearing.
Was the big
yeah.
thing. What was Leigh? What was
what was Leigh's outfit? He'd sort of be late and then just walk through the door and kick his legs in the air and speak to everyone and make, you know, it was like a whirly gig arriving.
And was it a real performance? I mean, was he wasn't really like that when you were with him and
well, he was,
having a cup of tea? Was
every day. His whole life was a performance.
He was non-stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, every now and then he'd just lie on the sofa and we just chat doing nothing. But if he just came to your house, he'd play tricks on you and just all the time, just entertain you.
Yeah. Really entertaining, charismatic, enigmatic person.
And you wonder what was going through his head that he could think and be bothered. He could be bothered to do all these things.
That's
is what I wonder
his
about.
Life was a work of art.
It was, yeah. It was living work of art, as they say.
So he must have really responded to wanting Lucian to paint these paintings of him. I mean, did he enjoy that process?
He loved it.
Yeah.
He loved learning from Lucian. He loved learning things, and Lucian knew a lot, and he found out a lot. I mean, Lucian took him to the National Gallery at night because Lucian had a special ticket for night time to go to the National Gallery.
A special ticket?
Well, I don't know, some special arrangement. He was allowed in at night.
Really?
Yeah. You want one now, don't you?
I'd love one.
Yeah.
So what? Leigh would be taken along, and he'd talk about his favourite paintings.
Turned up in roller skates.
Turned up in roller skates to the National Gallery and
Good
skated
idea.
around.
Yeah.
No way.
But
That's
I mean,
hilarious.
so he got like personal interest, you know, like, and Lucian was so interesting when he told, you know, stuff. It was very interesting.
He was a very intelligent man.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Well, you imagine like his family he came from and everything.
Yeah. Well, I always find it amazing that, you know, his grandfather was obviously Sigmund Freud that analysed the mind, and then he turned into this painter that sort of analysed the human form.
And took a very dim view of all types of psychiatry and
He
therapy.
He didn't like therapy at all.
No, he paid for a lot of his children to have it, but he was
yeah, too close to home.
Yeah.
Did Lucian Freud ever mention Francis Bacon?
Yeah.
Did he talk about him a lot? Because they were very
by
close.
the time I knew him, they'd fallen out.
Yeah.
You know, so of course he had named the television rooms, but he would be rude about him all the time. But I can't really remember exactly what he said, but you know, the general impression.
So why was the television room named by Lucian Freud, by Francis?
Because they used to come round the house, I suppose. You know, when they were friends,
yeah,
he'd come round and hang round there. I don't really know.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know them at that point.
And which of your paintings which of the paintings of you, the portraits of you, do you like the most?
The one that cost the money.
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah. Do you think that?
Yeah, I love it.
Because
I'm lying on that sofa. I look so comfortable and I'm all squidgy like the sofa.
Well, it's bizarre that it broke records. The most expensive portrait, figurative painting ever sold, and then I think Roman Abramovich bought the painting.
He did.
So it's
a bit weird now.
It's in Roman Abramovich. I mean, he looks at you on
Well,
the
does
sofa
he?
naked.
Do you think he's probably in storage somewhere? I don't think they
knows?
bother.
Do you know
It
what
used to-
happened to
No,
it?
beforehand it was on someone's house. He lives in St John's Wood, and I went and saw it.
Oh, so
and it was in their television room.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, but he was
So
a...
they sold the painting?
It wasn't
direct-
Lucian who sold it. No, because he was a banker, I think.
Right.
And lost a lot of money in that big crash.
Oh, so he was forced to sell it then?
Yeah. And then Roman Abramovich bought it. But now, the last exhibition at the National Gallery, because both of those ones, my favourites, are owned by Russians, and they're not allowed to have them because it's all to do with there's embargoes on trade with Russia and things like that.
So they were actually in the country. They were.
I don't know where they're. I don't know. I'm trying to get out. There was a big article in the Guardian about it because there's hidden treasure. They don't know where they are.
Well, they might be sort of withheld, like all the the money's withheld in banks.
I think that's quite exciting. I'm sad that people can't see them, but at the same
the
time,
assets are frozen, and those paintings are.
But at the
assets.
same time, it gives more background story to those paintings, more sort of excitement.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know.
But I mean, one day it will probably come out and resurface.
Yeah, I wish you'd just give it to the National Gallery or something.
Yeah, as a gift or something like that. It was absolutely iconic. How does it feel to be, involved in something like that? Do you feel disassociated from
it's
it?
like I don't. It's bizarre because there was a big exhibition in the National Portrait Gallery several years ago, and there was a room, 4 walls, and on each wall was a picture of me. And that was really weird going in there. But it was like it wasn't me, it was like it was someone different.
Yeah, well, that was the last room, wasn't it? I remember going to that exhibition and these huge, I mean, they were absolutely huge, those paintings.
I know, it was weird, and I'm there and everyone went, oh, God.
Well, I really like the one of you sitting, the Lion's Carpet one.
It's all right, but it's not my favourite.
No, why?
But there was a hoo-ha in the middle of that.
What happened?
I went, he was having a big exhibition at the south of France, and I really wanted to go. I go, can I go? Because I never really asked for much. I go, can I go? And he went, oh, all right then. Don't go in the sun. Oh, I couldn't help myself.
How would you get down to the exhibition? Did he go with you to the exhibition?
Oh, no, he bought me a ticket and everything, plane ticket, and all his children were going.
Oh,
so a group of us flew there.
Oh, nice. Did Lucian go?
No. Then we stayed in this nice hotel. It was lovely.
Oh, so he was generous like that?
Oh, yeah. Then there was a swimming pool. And I couldn't help it. I sat in the sun and I got a little bit burnt. And then when I had to go back.
So he was fuming when you got back?
Yeah, I had to go back and I was going, what am I going to do? I kept my clothes on as long as I could. And then I went, oh, I'm really sorry. I caught the sun. Oh, sorry. And it was only just here. It was red. And he didn't shout at me. He phoned up his daughter Bella and shouted at her.
Oh, really?
Because she should have stopped me.
Where was that in the south of France? Where was the
Saint Paul de Vence.
Oh, I know, yeah.
There's a nice gallery there.
Oh, gorgeous.
And there's that beautiful restaurant, the Colombe d'Or. So we went there and we had lunch with Madame Pompidou.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've eaten in that restaurant.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? Very plain, but delicious.
But they've got art all over the walls.
Yeah.
Picasso.
And that swimming pool with, is it Miro things in it and that?
Yeah, no, it's gorgeous.
It was fascinating.
There. And did Lucian travel much?
No, not really, because he just wanted to work.
But apparently he'd take private jets to New York.
Yeah, I think he got Concorde, yeah.
And
when he had the exhibition they met.
Yeah, and they would fly him in, give him a private tour of the Met, and then fly back to London.
Yeah, in Concorde.
He wanted to be back for painting the next day.
Yeah. He gave me a little bag, a little gift he got on Concorde. It was like a little bag with little dice, silver dice in it.
Oh, really?
I don't know where it is. It must be somewhere. I don't think I've thrown it away. It must be somewhere.
So this absolute focus and dedication to his craft was apparent. I mean, you could tell that it was...
Well, I think it's because, when he was young, he was like mischievous. And then he was knocking on. He goes, well, I've only got so long left. I better get working.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the impression that I get from the book is, when he was younger, he was much more social and a ladies' man. And then the older he got, the more he realised that he just wanted to paint, that there wasn't really
but he was lucky because he fitted his social life and his ladies in with his painting.
Right, in what way?
Well, there's a lot of romance went on with the ladies.
They'd come around and get painted by him? Or?
Yeah, not by me. Not with me. But I think while they were being painted, there was a little break.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of that was going on?
Yes, I know there was. But, so that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then... he'd paint his children so he could get to know his children. It was like...
Yeah, I heard that children had to come and sit for him if they wanted to spend real time
Yeah, so
with
it was like, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, a sitter, and get to know his children.
And who of his children was the most regular? Was it Bella that was the most regular in and out? Or?
Bella, Rose, because there's some he doesn't speak to.
Yeah.
He doesn't even really pretend they're his family. I don't know, but they are. Well, they look exactly the same, so...
They've all got a very
yeah.
Lucian Freud.
Because it was hilarious. It wasn't hilarious, but his funeral, where there's like a big celebration before the National Gallery exhibition opened.
Right.
And there was all these kids running about, all looked like Lucian.
Really?
And they didn't really know who they were. I go, that's your cousin. They go, well, see, I've never met them before. It was so weird.
He had 15 children?
Yeah. And they've all got children, so there was all these little Lucians running around.
Yeah, amazing. And so you've written this book about Leigh Bowery.
I have, yeah.
Here we go.
Well, I wrote it a long time ago.
And so tell us the story with you writing the book and...
Well, this is a story of my bizarre life. So when Leigh died, for some unknown reason, The Guardian asked me to write his obituary. I don't know why, because I've never written anything in my life before, so why they thought I could do it. But anyway, they very much liked it. I thought, oh, well, that's, I've done well there. And I wasn't even going to do that, but I thought, would Leigh want me to? Yeah, I will do it. I didn't hold back. It was all full of filthy words. And then someone I know, Robert Violette, was doing a big coffee table book about Leigh. And he went to Hodder and Stout and he goes, and they said, oh, we don't do coffee table books. Do you know anyone who could write a, book? And he went, oh, ask that Susan. They asked me and I just wrote it. It was bizarre.
When was it written?
Oh, years ago. When I was 40, so about almost 30 years ago.
And so what's taken so long to get it published?
No, it was published.
Oh, okay,
it was published years and years ago.
You're relaunching it.
Yeah, and it was kind of a cult classic, I'd call it, because people who read it really loved it.
Yeah.
But people are going, why is it doing so much better now? Well, there's 3 good reasons. Number 1, there's the exhibition at the Tate.
Yeah. So it's coincided with the exhibition.
Yeah. Number 2, I'm now like the benefit supervisor, which I wasn't known as then.
The icon.
Hardly. And also the world of social media didn't exist then.
Yeah.
And it's made such a difference.
Yeah.
It's incredible. But I mean, they sell it in the Tate, so,
So you haven't changed it or anything? You've literally
I've written a new chapter and changed a little bit.
Yeah.
Written a few new pictures. But, so I didn't really think it wasn't serious. I saw Robert Violette and I went, oh, we should publish the book again for a joke. Never thinking, the next thing I know, I had a new contract with Thames and Hudson.
Oh, fantastic.
I know.
But he's become so iconic.
I know, I'm thrilled. And I love the book, the style of the book I love. But what's really lovely, I've done quite a few signings and that. And then people come and they bring their original one, they're kept, and they go, it's my treasured possession.
Yeah.
And they go, we loved it so much. And I go, oh. And
he's got a very loyal following.
He has, yeah, people get obsessed. All over the world, people get obsessed with him.
Yeah, he was just like this sort of firework that just
I
came
know.
through people's
And everyone I
lives
meet, I remember they've only ever met him once, but they remember it, because once seen, never forgotten.
Yeah. And why do you think Lucian would name the paintings, benefit supervisor has become such an iconic, symbolic sort of name, but,
I know,
why didn't he name it Sue Tilley? Why was it benefit supervisor?
Probably because he didn't want the people in the pictures to be famous.
Right.
He really just wanted...
He didn't like painting famous people.
Oh, I don't know. I just didn't want... Most of them, they're just called 2 girls. Sometimes they call people's names, but generally... But I asked at work if it was allowed to be called benefit supervisor, and my manager went, no, I don't think it should be. Well, Lucian didn't care. He just did it.
But he must have been particularly fascinated that you
that I worked at the job. He liked to ask you stories about the job centre. Oh, yeah.
Because he could have called, women on a sofa, but he decided to call it.
He liked it. Because he used always to talk, we'd chat all the time about everyday things.
So he was very interested in your life.
What I'd done. And he desperately wanted to meet my mum and dad, so they had to come round.
Why was that?
He wanted to see where I'd come from. He couldn't believe such a bizarre creature had a mum and dad. So they came round, which they loved. And then he went out of his way. So he knew my dad liked sport. So he just started rubbishly talking about sport. He knew nothing about it.
What sort of things?
About motor racing. Oh, it went on and on and on. It was hilarious. The mum was going, he gave us coffee in a dirty enamel mug. I go, well, that's the way it is.
Oh, that's hilarious. So he's quite a charmer in his own way.
Oh, very, yeah. Could be completely charming.
He can turn on the charm and off the charm. Oh,
yeah, completely, yeah. And to be honest, I went to the National... I did this thing for the National Portrait Gallery the other week, a couple of months ago. And then, he does Friends of Friends. When my brother dumped his girlfriend rather cruelly, Lucy never met her, but I told him this story. Next thing, she was being painted by him.
She was?
Yes.
Oh, not your brother?
No, not my brother. The girlfriend he cruelly dumped, yeah.
Oh, he's probably trying to make a move.
I know, bizarre. So anyway, when this woman from the National Portrait Gallery the other week, she goes, we've found all this stuff from Lucian's archive. We don't really know what it is. Can you tell me what? And there were some postcards I've written who were hilarious, like naffest postcards in the world that he'd saved. So they're in the archives at National.
Sweet. And then there was sending postcards from south of France when you went there and got your tan.
No, I think one was from Cornwall. I went to a wedding. I can't remember. And then one might have been from the south of France. I don't know. And then there was a card from a woman called Sue, but it wasn't from me. It was going, thanks for a lovely afternoon. I thought, I think that's my brother's old girlfriend's mum. So I rang her to check, and it was, because he'd taken her out as well to see.
So from you, he'd painted
my brother's ex-girlfriend, and then met her mother. Oh, he didn't paint the mother, but he'd taken her out again to see the mother, and she sent him a very nice card.
The parents of his models to see where they'd been.
Where they came from. Very bizarre.
Oh, he had a very unique mind. I mean, I was thinking today how, Lucian was really, and Leigh, they're not even once in a generation.
No, they're
sort
not.
Of once in 100 years.
Yeah, because no one could be. They're some people you can see they're putting an act on, and that's not really them, and they're pretending to be like that.
Yeah.
This was completely genuine. It's what they were like, and they didn't have to think about it.
What were the conversations like between Leigh and Lucian?
They were intellectual and not really.
What sort of things were they talking about?
Everything under the sun.
What books they'd read?
Yeah, and people, and gossip. Oh, he loved to gossip, Lucian. He loved to gossip. Did you know who I met the other day? No, Kylie Minogue. I went, oh. And so he knew, because he read so many newspapers, and he didn't just read highbrow ones, he had the Mirror and the News of the World as well.
So he was desperate to find
all the goss, yeah.
Well, he was really, in the 60s and the 50s. And he
was really, part of society,
He was really part of society, and he was sort of married to it girls.
Yeah.
And, so he probably had just retired from that world to painting, but was still interested in it all.
So like Leigh, they just did what they wanted and didn't really care.
Yeah.
I've got lots of friends who are artists. I find her a bit like that.
Yeah.
They just do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And don't really care about conventions of life.
Yeah, well, especially Lucian. He was very unconventional.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these two were just a force of nature in the
studio. They were. Imagine the electricity in that room must have been buzzing.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. You witnessed it all.
I know. Oh, lucky. I know, when I think about it all, it's weird. Because when I was young, I read lots of art books all the time, and about the Impressionist models and all this, the pre-Raphaelite girls and all this. And only about last year did I realise people be reading about me like that.
That's true.
And it's so peculiar.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like I went out of my way for that to happen.
You think about the Mona Lisa, everyone's obsessed with who this woman is.
I know.
And people
the thing is that I'm such a big god, they'll all know about who I am, because it's not like I keep myself to myself.
But paintings go on for hundreds of years.
I know, that's why I think I haven't got any children. So at least something of me.
Mona Lisa's 500 years old.
I know.
You'll still be looked at in
with
500
an enigmatic smile.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I might never be seen again, because I don't know. I might be burnt by Putin or something, who knows?
It's probably just frozen in some vault somewhere.
I know.
It will come out one day, but let's hope it comes out sooner than later.
I know. People go, how do you make these things happen? I don't know. Just come my way.
Yeah. Chance.
Yeah.
Luck.
Take a chance, grab a chance, say yes is what I say.
Yeah.
But you never know what's going to happen.
Well, Francis Bacon was a great believer in chance. He was obsessed with chance, and chance, I suppose betting on the horses is all chance and luck, isn't it?
Because have you seen the film, what's it called? The Francis Bacon film?
Yeah.
Devil.
The Devil, Love
is the Devil.
Love is the Devil.
Yeah, because my friend made that.
Yeah.
It's his birthday today, funny enough. Yeah. And I was an extra in the colony rooms.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
And Derek Jacobi is going to be Lucian
Freud. I know.
In the...
I think that's a bit greedy.
Yeah.
Same man playing both of them.
Yeah. So he played Francis Bacon.
I can see much better as I don't see him as Lee. I can see him as Francis Bacon.
But was Kate Moss ever around on the scene when you were there?
No, because she worked there after.
She was after.
Yeah, but I kind of, if I see, I haven't seen her for years, but if I see her, she's always nice to me, I have to say.
Oh, so you bump into her from time?
I haven't seen her. I'm going to a wedding where she might be in a few weeks, but I haven't seen her for years. But
and what was the final sessions like with you and Lucian when was it sort of? Did you feel like your time had been done?
He kept mumbling that it wasn't done. Yeah. Then I kept on going. He'd give me money. Then I wasn't sitting, and then he went, "Oh, I think we finished now." I went, "Oh, all right, didn't care."
After 4 years.
Yeah, but it was fine.
That was it.
Time goes on. You have to do something new and different. He had to paint someone else. He knew me too well by then, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He needed to test himself with someone else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's a lot about his painting wasn't making pictures with the story. The people seemed to always put things into them that they're a story.
Right.
But it was more composition, and you know, like people are really weird and their feet
Weird
are big.
angles and
Yeah,
things
it
like
was
that,
like
yeah.
testing himself that he could paint those weird
The
angles and the
foreshortening
perspective.
and
Yeah.
things, And so, do you feel that he just felt that the time was done?
My time was done.
and
I
he
was
wanted-
over.
And he wanted to move on to some other.
Yeah.
Who did he paint after you? Can you remember?
Well, my brother's girlfriend.
Oh, so that was it.
And then some other girl he was going out with, who was about 22 or something.
Right.
You know, in the pictures, I think there's a picture of her grabbing his leg.
Oh yeah, I know exactly the one.
With the curly hair.
Self-portrait. And
Yeah,
it's painted at night. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that her. I don't really know, because, you know, I sort of, I never really saw him much. You know, I didn't move in the same circles, really. I mean, I bumped into his daughters every now and then, but, you know.
That was it.
Yeah.
So,
Very annoying.
Sue, it's been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for telling us all the goss of the inside of
You're
Lucian
welcome.
Freud's studio and the
I know.
electric atmosphere that you witnessed for those 4 years of your life.
I was very lucky, wasn't I?
Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
But, you know, other things have happened as well.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I know.